So there's no swearing as we go through. So welcome to our time mastery workshop. I think everyone's been to these before. Megan, have you done? Is this your first one?
Yeah, this is the first one.
First one, excellent. Well, welcome to you. So this is one of a series of 6 mastery workshops that rotate every 3 months, covering really what I would call the fundamentals of running a business. So time, finance, marketing, sales, customers, and team are the sort of the fundamentals. So while this is sort of time mastery, it's actually, I used to call it self-mastery because it's much more about work, our own internal, how we think, how we act. But no one actually searches on Google for self-mastery. They all search for time mastery. So and it's one of the biggest challenges when we're in business is there's never enough time to do what we want to do. So that's going to be our sort of our key focus today. So around time mastery then, what are, for you guys, what's the main thing you'd like to get out of today? So what is your biggest time challenge currently? So if you can use the chat box, it's quite, even though we've got a small group, it can be easy just to sort of write something on the chat box. And then tell me what are your challenges, or what would you like to get out of today? How can I help with getting things done on a day-to-day basis? Okay, so pretty broad on that. So is there any particular area, Harriet, that is more of a challenge than others? Default diary, good. Prioritizing, yeah. Too many unfinished tasks on the go. Recent changes to company structure, getting default diary just implemented. Okay, cool. Getting things finished. Okay, good. I think I'm going to cover most of those, but if you keep a note of it, and if I haven't covered it enough by the end of today, then please, do come back to me and let me know which area that we need to focus on. So I start, as you'll see, all of these as my little formula for life success. Be times do equals have. So what do I want to have? My dreams and my goals. Who do I need to be? And what do I need to do? Okay, cool. So it's just somebody saying I can't make today. And what do I need to do? My plans and my actual activity. So when it comes to time mastery, the first thing you've got to be able to do is say, right, what do I want? What do I want to have? What does good time mastery look like? I would say that's one of the biggest flaws for most people is they don't know. Yeah, they don't know what great. Oh, you've seen all the pages you're not seeing the big. Let me start share. That's what we want, isn't it? Is that better? Can't give you all my secrets straight away. So what is it that we want to have? Okay, what is the goal? So Megan, let's sort of start with you. What was your? Let's go back to your chat. What was your? So too many unfinished tasks on the go. Okay, so that's what you don't want. So what do you want then? What does success around this look like for you?
Just being able to finish like each task before I move on to the next in sort of the best order.
Okay.
I just find with a lot of things, like I'll sort of start something and then I'll need, I don't know, I need something to finish it. Like I'll need another member of staff's help, or I need to wait for something to happen, and then I'll start another task and sort of something similar happens, and then before I know it, I've got sort of 5 things on the go, and I'm like, oh, which one was I? One that I'm in the middle of, do I need to do next? Yeah. I think I end up sort of making each task like a lot longer than it should take because of that.
Okay, so the first question to ask is that something that's happening because of what is in your control, or is it happening because it's outside your control?
I think a bit of both, really. I think sometimes I get sort of excited by the next project, and I'm like, oh, that sounds more fun than what I'm doing now. So I'll start that, or like I say, yeah, sometimes that I do generally need like some more information to finish it, for example.
Yeah.
Or I need someone to answer a question.
Okay, so I'll come on to when we look at disc profiling in a bit. With phoning through. We've got to get sort of real clarity around what is it we want to achieve, because what happens is our brains I call it magpie syndrome. Okay, our brains need stimulation. They're looking for something that gives them excitement. Have you heard about the dopamine hit? So when we do something, we get a dopamine hit, which makes us feel good. So that's what our brains want. So when you start something, yeah, it gives you a nice hit of dopamine that says, yeah, oh, that's great, something nice and new that I can get my teeth into. Finishing things generally doesn't give us that dopamine hit. You know, eventually it becomes a bit of a chore, and we don't get the excitement from it, and therefore, you know, if we can move into something else, then that's what we'll do. So the first thing with all of this is we've got to be aware of what we're doing that potentially is causing our problems with time. Now, some of the things are external factors that happen that we don't have control over. You know, things can happen from the outside world that eat into our time that we don't necessarily have control. But what we have control of is how we respond to that and what we put in place to actually help us with it. And I'll deal with a little bit more of that later on. Okay. So the first thing that we've got to be thinking about is the most important one of these 3 is the have, and therefore we've got to start getting clear what our goals are. Okay, because if you don't know where you're going, then any way will actually help you get there. The more clear you are with your goal and your focus and your purpose, the easier time management becomes. They always say, you know, give something to a busy person, because it's not because they're busy, it's because they're focused on getting things done, and therefore they're more likely to get it done. If you're unfocused, then everything's equally as important, and then therefore you start too many things, none of which you're actually going to get completed. So we've got to be looking at, you know, what our goals are. And in a business side of things, in a business side of things, you know, we use this little sort of pyramid here to show what actually happens. That, you know, businesses are based on strong values, core values. Our purpose is where the business is going to go to. We then set targets, goals, actions. Then we have a schedule, and then we have our daily activity. So where you sit in here has always got to relate to the level above, or in this case, the level below. So what is the overall purpose of the business? Where am I trying to get to? What are my 3 to 5 year goals and targets? What's my annual goal? You know, what are my quarterly actions, my schedule? So this comes back to that sort of 90-day plan focus. So when you look at what you're doing today, Yeah, you've got to understand, where does it sit in here? Is it helping me move towards this, or am I just being busy? Am I just doing stuff? And it's the stuff bits that will zap into your time and mean that at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, you'll look back and go, oh, what did I do that for? Where did all my time go? Okay, so we've got to start looking at really getting clarity around, you know, setting our goals and our focus. And the key factor to this is there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, okay, which sits about here. It's part of our sort of limbic system, reptilian brain. It's like a filter. It filters out things that we don't need, because, you know, if you think about, our brain is receiving information from the 5 senses all the time. You know, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, and actually the 6th sense is what you feel as well. So it's got the feeling side of things. So a little test of this is, you're all in a room, I'm assuming, somewhere. So what I want you to do is quickly look around the room and count the number of red things you see. Okay, now it's very difficult for me to see because most of you got backgrounds on, but look around the room, count how many red things that you actually see. Okay, so Gary, take yourself off mute. How many red things did you see?
I was going to show you the fingers. It's like, I've got 8 that I can see around my room.
8 red things. Okay, keep looking at the screen. So how many green things did you see?
I wasn't looking for green things.
You weren't looking for green things, but you saw green things because that information was visible. It's just I programmed your reticular activating system to look for red things, and therefore you ignored the green things. You ignored everything else apart from the red things. Okay, and there have been clinical trials. I was with a client yesterday, and there's a great YouTube video about the gorilla. I don't know if you've seen that, with the gorilla and the basketball. So if you type in gorilla basketball, I think psychology, you'll get a couple of versions of it. And basically there's a test where there's people playing basketball, passing the ball around, and it says count the number of times the ball gets passed. You're so focused on counting the ball, you miss the fact that this gorilla comes into screen, waves, and then walks off again. And most people don't see the gorilla. Okay, so it's an extremely powerful but dumb part of our brain. You know, it switches on, it switches off. So if we don't set our reticular activating system on what we want, then it'll either ignore things that will help us achieve that goal, or it will let the wrong information in. Okay, and we start seeing things that give us a quick fix, a quick burst of dopamine, a quick sense of achievement, rather than actually what we really want, which is that longer term goal. So our brain is very much short-term focus, not long-term focus. Okay, and I'll show you why that is in a second. So, and this is why goal setting and planning is so important, and doing this on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a daily basis, an hourly basis. Because if you don't go through the routine of setting your reticular activating system on what it is that you want, then it's got a big chance of getting it wrong, and letting in the wrong information in, or blocking out the right information. Okay, so it's a very, very powerful. People sort of will mention, setting your RAS, your reticular activating system. Has anybody read the Law of Attraction? I don't know if you've come across the book Law of Attraction. The Secret. There's a book called The Secret. Have you heard about that one? No, that's because it's a secret. So if you're into the sort of a bit of the insane and wacky, okay, grab the book. There is I think the video is on YouTube as well. I think it's about an hour-long video. Be careful with it, because some of it is rubbish. Okay, it's taken a concept a little bit. I say it's my opinion, is rubbish, but there's elements of that, and really what it's talking about here is purely it's talking about the reticular activating system. Okay, it doesn't say that, which is where it goes wrong. It puts it down to this sort of spiritual sort of mumbo jumbo stuff, but it's basically programming of your reticular activating system to allow you to potentially achieve what you want to achieve. Okay, so it's called the law of attraction, and if the book around it is called The Secret. So once we understand our reticular activating system is the filter and we've got to program it, we've then got to understand how we move, how goals are set. So we have 3 levels of goal setting. The first one is a very simple system, and it's driven by our reptilian brain, so our basic functional brain, which is moving away from pain. So simple levels of goals are, I don't want this, and therefore I'll move towards this. They don't take much thinking. There's no sort of pontification about it. There is just something that drives us. We're compelled to do it. So a goal that you feel compelled to do is generally driven by the reptilian brain, a move away from pain goal. So Lee, if you look back in your life, has there been a move away from goal that springs to mind?
What, a move away from goal? Yeah, I suppose back when I was in the military, it was about progressing and improving yourself, and you could have put yourself onto a certain course. Some courses are a bit harder than others, and I sort of shied away from some courses, I suppose, because I thought I wouldn't be able to do it,
right,
or complete it or pass it.
Okay, that's probably going to move into my second level. So can I come back? I'll come back to that one if I may. So Gary, I think that you had a time in your life, didn't you, where things were pretty bad and you just did what it took to move away from it.
Yeah, in life, well, yeah, left South Africa, moved to England, so that was a bad route that I was going to go down, but I moved to England and life is good. That's
so something bad I don't want to sort of deal with, and therefore you just do. There's not much planning involved in it, is there?
No,
I didn't.
I literally bought a ticket 2 weeks later, and then two weeks after that, I was on the plane, and that was it.
Exactly. Pack a bag, buy a ticket, and I'm gone.
Yep, exactly.
We're not too worried necessarily about the consequences of that move. We're not thinking a long way ahead of, well, what else could happen. It's just that pain is potentially so bad, we just get on and do it. So those levels of goals are really good at a certain point because they drive a lot of adrenaline. You get fired up on action. You go back to be, do, have. They're very much do-based goals. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move away, and therefore I just focus on it. But the problem with them is they're very short-lived. Okay, once I've achieved it, once I've moved away from the pain, what drove us towards that then dissipates. It disappears. And sometimes we can move away from pain and then feel a little bit lost. Well, okay, I didn't want that. Now I'm here. It seemed so clear at the time, but now that clarity is gone, and I'm wondering, well, why did I do that in the first place? And sometimes that pain of having moved actually drives you back to where you were. Okay, and you end up in this sort of pretty nasty cycle. So the reptilian brain is basically there to keep you alive. It's there just to move you away from pain, put you into a comfort zone. And I talk about sheep. So Harriet, so you're a clever person. What does sheep do? What does sheep do all day?
Sit and do nothing.
I don't think they sit and do nothing. Not when I see them in the field. What are they doing in the field?
Run around sometimes.
In between running around, what do they mainly do all day?
Eat
Eat grass.
Yeah.
Okay, so sheep, and are they quite happy eating grass all day?
Yeah.
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 That's quite nice.
Yeah.
Nice and content. Certainly when the weather's nice, they're sitting out eating grass all day. So then a big bad wolf comes into the field. What do
They
the
run
sheep
away from it.
run away from the wolf? Okay, and as soon as the wolf disappears, what does the sheep then do?
Comes back and eats the grass.
Come back to eat grass. So you can see there that this level of goal setting is move away until the pain's gone, and then resort back to where we were. So it's good at instant action, getting you off your backside moving forwards, but there's no longevity with it. It won't keep you moving forwards. So then we've got to tap into the next level of our brain function, which is our limbic system, our mammalian brain, our emotional brain, and this is about what we want. So what makes us feel good? What are our towards goals that we're driving for? And Lee, this is where you were in the forces. Is actually achieving the status of these things makes me feel good. It gives me social standing. It sort of go back to if we're pack animals, it moves me up in the hierarchy of the pack. Okay, and there is a natural tendency for us as of all animals to want to get to a certain level. But once we're at that level of comfort again, then we stay there. Okay, and if our aspirations to achieve that goal aren't that great, I sort of want it, but how will I feel when I get it? Oh, not that good. Then if it gets a little bit difficult, then we give up. Okay, so I was talking to a tennis coach a bit earlier today, and I used the analogy of, a young up-and-coming tennis player comes to you and says, can you coach me? Can you coach me? I said, what's the first question you ask them? Well, where do you want to go? If you want, and if they turn around and say, I want to win Wimbledon. Okay, great. Well, that's fantastic. That's a great goal to aim for. Now we've got to put the effort in to actually achieve that goal. Now, is that effort going to be quite hard and tough? Yes, it is. And if your desire to win Wimbledon isn't strong enough, you're going to give up halfway, or not even halfway through that process. So the bigger this goal, the more tied in you are to this pleasure. When I achieve that, I'm going to feel really good. Then that will drive you towards it. If this goal is a little bit weak and a bit, oh yeah, I'd sort of like it, but I don't really want it, then it's not going to help you. So the pain goal won't get you there because you're not in pain. And if the pleasure goal isn't there, then that's not going to help you either. So what we've got to do is, when we're setting our goals, we've really got to tie into the fact that by doing what we're doing is actually going to give us something we really want. And that's when I come back to time management, is when you're really clear of what you want to achieve, then you will make time. It will naturally come. Your diary will just fall into place. When you don't know what you want, when you haven't got clarity around it, and there's no pressure to actually do something because of pain, that's when the problems come and will arise. Okay, so the first question to each of you to ask yourself is, how clear am I to actually my move towards goals? Personally, what do I want within a business context as well? So what do I want for my business? What do I want in my role in this business? If you've clear what that goal is, then time management is going to be much easier than if you're not clear what that goal is. So go back to you, Megan, when you've got all of these jobs on, to me, that's saying, well, you're not clear. You can't prioritize because you don't know what the goal is.
Mm.
If you really knew what the goal is, then prioritizing and getting things done would be easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got to come back to, what am I trying to achieve? What is the goal that I'm aiming for? That is the critical part. Again, though, the problem with towards goals is that at some point will come where actually you don't have, you're okay yourself. You don't have any goals that you're moving towards. And at this point, we have to then tip into what we call the neocortex, which is the higher level of brain function. I think, therefore I am. Our ability to think to the future and learn from the past. But that part of our brain is what I would call the spiritual part of our brain, which is, it's not about me, it's about other people. Because there will always come a time where you've got everything that you need, that you want. Yeah. At what point do you actually help other people? When does that drive stop? So, Gary, I know this is big for you. How many people are there in the world that you could help?
Too many.
Will you be able to help them all in your lifetime?
Not all of them, but I can try as many as I can.
Exactly. So if that goal and that drive is strong enough to help other people, that never ends. Okay, now some people can go straight from nothing to this. So Mother Teresa's a great example. She didn't do what she did out of need. She didn't do it out of personal want and desire. She went straight into neocortex. I'm doing this for other people. And they dedicate their life to the cause. Okay, that's fantastic. And I my hat's off to those people. I'm not wired that way. Okay, I'm if I can do this one, then I can do a bit of this as well. So we've got to find our own balance between this, because yes, I can dedicate my life to this one, but if I did this one really well, I could make enough money and have enough time to then go and do some of this. So we've got to decide, we've got to understand where we are in our goal set. Now, some of us, are still, some of us are still here. Some of us are still moving away from pain. Yeah. If we're in a comfortable position, then we need to start setting bigger personal goals. What do I want to achieve? Think big in this respect. If we're really at the point where I've got everything I could possibly want and desire, and that doesn't motivate me anymore, then we have to tap into the high level, and we have to tap in. It's not about me anymore. It's about what I can do for other people. But if we clear whatever level we are, if we're clear what the goal is, then time management becomes much, much easier, because we've got something to prioritize towards. So Megan and all the jobs she's trying to do becomes easy, because actually I do the ones that are most important to achieving my goal. But if we don't have a goal, then everything's as important as everything else, and that's where we get stuck. So, any questions around that? Is there anything that, any blinding flash of the obvious from it? If you think about your past life or where you are at the moment, that stands out?
So to be clear, Kevin, I suppose every task you undertake, there needs to be a clear set goal. I mean, I'm just looking at my board in front of me now, and I've got so many sort of to-dos, if you like, but the ultimate goal at the end of it is, well, that's the reason why I've got this great to-do list, because there's a goal at the end of it. At the end of it might be, okay. Yeah.
So if you weren't clear on that goal, then that to-do list would, it would be a maybe to-do list. Okay. Whereas if you're really clear on that goal, and that to-do list relates to the goal, then you know that you're going to get those things done. So it's going to be much easier for you to manage your time. I'm still not saying there's enough time to get everything done, but as I'll show you a bit later, it gives you that chance to prioritize, and more importantly, say no, know when to say no.
And really about knowing what time to actually put to each activity, and if it's a waste of time, there's no point to it if there's no goal at the end of it.
Yeah. If you end up doing things that are, and look, I know all this stuff, but I still catch myself. I catch myself doing things that are they going to move me towards my goals? No. but sometimes I'm just knackered and I just, I've had enough of moving towards my goals and I just want to sit in front of the telly and just watch some trash TV. It's sort of sometimes you've got to go on holiday just to recharge the batteries to get to a point where you can come back and focus on your goals again. Again, go back to sport. Every great sports person knows that they can push their body and their mind so far, and then they need to take a break. I just need to come away from this. You can't just be a relentless slog all the time. So once we know which level we are, and we're driving towards something, then you've got to understand you have to become smart with your goals. So when you set a goal, you've got to be thinking of what I call the smartification of it. So SMART is SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic time frame, but they also have to be inspiring and emotional as well. If you smartify a goal, then you've got a really good chance of succeeding. So Gary, have you got a goal in mind that I can just do this little exercise with? So give me one of your goals off your 90-day plan.
So there's quite a lot on there.
Just one of them. It's just as an example.
So it's 2 in 1, but it's to do 2 video presentations. One is for general advertising for my maintenance company, and the other is for advertising for investors for potential deal sourcing or property developments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to do two video. It doesn't matter what it's for. So I want to do 2 videos for marketing purposes.
There you go. In a nutshell, yes.
Okay. So Megan, how if we were to rate that on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being fantastic and 1 being awful, how smartified do you think Gary's goal is? Is it specific?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's specific because he basically gave a number. I want to do 2 videos. That's pretty specific. Could he make it more specific?
Maybe more details of what the video will include.
Yeah. So we could be more specific by saying 2 videos of painting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would make it more specific. We could then potentially make it more specific from that and painting of a wall. So I do 2 videos of painting a wall. Yeah. Would then be, that's probably, really specific. You'd score yourself a 10 out of that. Okay. Is it measurable?
Is that in terms of he knows that there's 2 to be made?
Yeah. Can we measure the progress is really what we're saying there for measurable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's given a number to it. Yeah. So if we do 1, then we're 50% of the way there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So it's definitely measurable. So it scores well on unmeasurable. Is it achievable? So
depends if he has the resources to do it.
Exactly. Have I got the resources to do it? Do I know how to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it realistic in the time frame that I'm setting? So what's the one thing he didn't set when he said the goal?
The time frame.
The time frame. Okay, so if he was to make it more smart, he would say, I want to do 2 videos of painting a wall by the 30th of April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's what I would call a SMART goal. The final check is it inspiring and emotional? So you could look at it as being a bit of a task.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've got to do it, but I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, unless you think doing so will, bring in a lot of like to the business or
So if the goal itself isn't that, achieving that goal, doing the work isn't that inspiring and emotional, you have to link it to something that is.
Yeah.
Okay, now if it's part of the bigger goal of making more money or achieving what he wants to achieve, then generally that will come naturally from that. But sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
Okay, sometimes it is just something that I've got to do. I've been putting it off for a long time, but I just got to get it done. If you
Yeah.
get to a point where that happens, then create a reward, an inspiring and emotional reward to reward yourself when it's done.
Yeah.
So, making it quite simple, if I had to, I had to clean the toilet,
Yeah.
then the inspiring emotional, that's not really inspiring or emotional, will be, I will, once I've cleaned the toilet, I will give myself, a bar of chocolate or something like that. You attach it to something that allows your brain to give you that dopamine hit once you've achieved it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so if it's not inspiring emotion in its own right, link it to something that would be inspiring and emotional. I'll take the rest of the day off. For me, it's quite easy. I'll allow myself to go and play golf.
Yeah.
I'll do it. If anything that I do that allows me to go and play golf afterwards, I'll do it. It's quite simple. Jane hasn't quite figured that one out yet. But could you just go and do the shopping, and then after that you can go and play golf? Oh, right, okay, then I'll go do that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to time, we've got to set your time goals. So again, it goes back to that visualization of what is it you want. So when you sort of say, so I said to you, so Neil, we talk about the working on and working in the business. So if I said to you, what would a goal be for you for working on the business?
Working on the business, I would say, I think from a sales scripts. So something
No,
like
what would be a goal? So I'm saying you got 40 hours in a week. What would a time goal for you be if you were saying, well, I want to spend more time working on the business?
Well, it's not something that I particularly do because it's something that Lee is doing, but it's certainly working on the website, for example. We both of us have sort of an input into the website, but it's being able to get dedicating the time to actually look at it, to develop it, speak with other people if we need to assist. We're using a CRM, for example, HubSpot, which we can link into the website.
So if I paraphrase that, then we're saying I want more time to work on the website or the marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now go back to the smartification of that. How smart, Megan, is that as a goal now? I want more time to work on the marketing. How smart is that as a goal?
Not very.
No. Because what I call a fluffy goal.
Yeah.
So we'd have to think, right, how would we smartify that goal to work more time on the marketing?
How much time, what's in marketing you want to work on?
Yeah.
By when and why?
Excellent. Okay, so every goal that we set, we must go through that process. Write the goal, take a step back, look at it, and then smartify it. Is it specific enough? Can I measure my progress towards achieving that goal? Do I have the resources to achieve it? And is it realistic in the time frame that I'm setting?
Mm-hmm.
And the final one is, does it inspire me to get on and do it? If it doesn't, right, I've got to link something to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all of these goals here, I want more time with the family. It's not a goal. How much time? What are you going to do with that time? When's that time going to happen? Time for myself, learning time. These are all things that you've got to get more specific about what is it you want to achieve. Because go back to your reticular activating system, it needs to understand exactly what I'm looking for. You know, if I want to look for red, I'll see red. If I want to look for green, I'll see green. Yeah, if you make it woolly, it'll just go around, it'll look around, but it won't pick up any information at all. Okay, so getting real clarity with your goals. Yeah, if you're not clear what your goals are, in my mind, you cannot master your time. It's impossible. Yeah, if you have clarity around your goals, you're clear what they are. If you smartify them, then you have a fighting chance. It's still not easy. Still got things to work on, but it's the starting point for this. So that's really about the have. You know, what do we want to have? Gets that clarity, and have comes back to our ability to set really clear, powerful goals. And I'm doing a book club this month, so Duncan Bannatyne's book, How to Be Smart with Your Time. And if you look at you know, part 1, which is the first 16 chapters, yeah, he says, what are you doing with your life? You know, chapter 1, page 1, identify your goals. Okay, so, and this is, you know, everyone put Duncan Bannatyne in a pretty successful person box. You know, that's what changed his life. You know, what changed his life is when he sat down and got clarity around what he wanted, and then he put everything together towards to actually achieve that. So once we've got clarity around our goals, then we need to work on our beliefs, you know, how we think. And the first thing that you've got to understand in business is that business is not busyness. Okay, when you are busy, yeah, and you're working really, really hard, there are times where you have to do that. Okay, I'm not disputing that at all. There are times where you have to just knuckle down and get on with it. If that is the norm, then you're doing it wrong. Okay, if every day, every week you run out of time and you're not achieving what you set out to achieve your goals, then you are doing this wrong. Okay, so if I put it to a situation that we were running a marathon. Okay, so if you set, right, I'm going to run a marathon in 4 hours 30 minutes, and you ran the marathon, you did it in 6 hours 45 minutes. Yeah, would you look on that as a success? No. Okay, you'd look at it and go, actually, I haven't achieved what I set out to achieve. And then you'd have to look at it and say, right, well, what do I do differently in order to achieve that? So if we get to the end of the week and we've worked 80 hours and we don't feel we've made progress, you know, if you've done 80 hours and you've hit your goals and you've made progress, that's fine, you know, great. But there comes a time where you're getting to the end of the week and you haven't achieved what you set out to achieve. Things have gone wrong, yeah, but you've been busy. The first thing is you've got to sit back and go, right, something's wrong with this. You know, just being busy is not what business is all about. And certainly, you know, as the higher up in an organization you get, your feeling of busyness should reduce. Okay, you need to be sitting in that space where you're thinking more than doing. But if you think that busyness is okay, then something's wrong. Okay, you've got to look at that and actually change it. So how you invest your time is one of the key things to actually building a successful business. Because time is your most precious asset. Okay, if you lose money, you've always got time to get it back. But if you lose your time, no amount of money will get that time back. And it's an interesting one that if you think about it, it's not all assets are distributed evenly amongst people. Okay, some people are strong, some people are more intelligent, some people are better looking, some people had better upbringings. Okay, some people start with more money. Time is the one asset that's evenly distributed amongst everybody. Richard Branson has 24 hours a day. Gary Mowat has 24 hours a day. On that basis, you guys are equal. But the problem is, at the end of every day, you can't get that time back. So it's what you do with that time that is really, really precious. So you've got to look and really take responsibility for that time and spend it in the best possible way. And until you respect your time, yeah, you can't expect other people to respect it for you. And what I see in businesses is if the business owner or the manager is busy, then that sends a signal out to everybody below them that that's the way we work. So we just create more problems as we scale up and as we go forwards. So we each have a responsibility for ourselves to actually think about, you know, where our time is being spent. Is it being spent in the right place, or, you know, do we need to do something about this? But until you're aware of it, then you won't make those changes. And a big problem with this is if we get to a point where we're not aware of it, we're not doing something about it, there's a big danger in the fact that we go below what we call below the line. Yeah, we end up in blame, excuses, and denial. Whereas what we want is you to take ownership, be accountable, and have responsibility. So what are some of the long-term impacts of running out of time and not getting things done, Neil?
I'll say that again.
What are some of the long-term impacts of running out of time, always being busy, never getting things done?
Never achieving your goal. Your goal always being getting further and further away.
Yep. Any others?
Potentially losing clients.
Losing clients, yeah.
Never feeling like you're actually going to achieve anything.
Yeah.
Losing respect from people, maybe.
Lose respect, yeah. Good points.
Self-depression.
Yeah. Could lead to depression. So mental health. What about physical health?
It probably is bad.
Yeah, if you're not spending time on you personally, you know, you're going to have a detrimental effect on you.
Yeah.
Physique.
What about family? Impact on family?
Yeah.
Won't be there.
Yeah. See what happens is if we're not in control of this, it's very easy then to come down below the line and start blaming other people, making excuses, or the most dangerous one is putting your head in the sand. Okay, and you see this a lot of people, you know, they'll start blaming, oh, the reason I'm busy is, you know, my customers. The reason I'm busy is my team. The reason I don't have enough time is this. Yeah, I can't come and see you at school, you know, Sophie, because of business. Marriages break down, you know, because I was too busy to do, you know, to spend time with my partner. It's their fault, they don't understand. You know, we've got to look at, you know, it's cause and effect. Whatever comes back at you is as a result of the actions you've taken. And if you take ownership, accountability, and responsibility, then you have a chance of actually sort of saying, okay, you know, this has happened as a result of what I've done. Okay, so we've got to have this limiting belief that we get, you know, what we deserve. So if you don't have time to do what you want to do, it's because of the decisions and processes that you've put in place. Now, we might not be there right now, but if we've got the goal of achieving that, we should see our movement, our transition from where we are to where we want to be. If we're not getting that, then we've got to take this ownership, accountability, and responsibility and make changes, do something about it. And we might not have the skills to do that. That's why we have to read. That's why we have to open our minds up to different ways of achieving things. Yeah, but we've all got the ability, we've all got the skills and the inherent talent to do this. Yeah, it's just we've got to often we've got to unlock that. Okay, and sometimes it's just talking about it. You know, once you talk about it, it gets it out there, and then you can deal with it. Okay, so be very careful. You know, if you start blaming and making excuses, then that's the time to hold the mirror up and go, right, okay, so I'm starting to blame business for things that aren't happening, making excuses. What's really going on here? Am I not in control of? I need to go back to my goals again and have stronger goals, have more clarity around what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, and also when we've got team members who are busy, we've got to help them with this process as well. Okay, because we get stuck there, team members will get stuck there as well. So if they're running out of time, okay, well, let's look at why you're running out of time. What are your goals? What are your priorities? How are you structuring your day? What are you actually doing? What's causing this? So, and that sort of leads us on to, you know, what is the identity iceberg. That our behavior is actually a symptom of what's below the surface. Okay, so our actions, decisions, and results. So if we're finding that we're not getting things done, we're not delivering on our goals, we're not achieving what we want to achieve, then we've got to look down into this iceberg. And the first sort of level, the first level is the skills. You know, do we have the skills to do what we set out to do? If we don't, we've got to go and learn those skills. We really believe in what we're doing, or are we just doing it because, you know, we feel obliged to do it? Have we really got the belief in that goal? Have we got a belief in, you know, in the activities that we're actually doing, or are we doing it because somebody else has asked us to do it? If we're not engaged in the activity, then we're going to have problems around it. Does it meet with our values? You know, do we have strong enough values? Are they aligned? You know, or is our current role, what we're doing, moving us too far away from our values? Because that will cause us, you know, big problems. Sort of, yeah, if it's left sort of to fester too long. And our identity. You know, when we look in the mirror, what do we say to ourselves about ourselves when we're by ourselves? And finally, you know, is the environment in which we're working, is it conducive to the behavior that we're looking for? So if I'm sitting there, you know, being busy and not getting things done, the first thing I always look at is, okay, is the environment causing me problems? And this is a big thing for people working from home. You know, is suddenly you've changed the environment in an office environment. The environment is conducive to do work. At home, the environment may not be conducive to do work. You might have kids running around. You might have, you know, the other half sort of thinking that you're actually at home and therefore should be doing, you know, more of the housework, more of the sort of the day-to-day chores. You might sort of be thinking yourself, it might not be somebody nagging you. You might just see piles of washing up and think, oh God, I've got to go and do the washing up now. So is the environment acting on that behavior and stopping you performing as you should be? If the environment is fine and you're happy with that, then I have the skills that I need. You know, are my beliefs conducive? You know, do I need to really look at my beliefs again? And down to that identity level here, of, what is it that I'm actually, who do I think I am? Who am I becoming? Am I moving? Am I actually in alignment to my true self? Okay, so to change the behavior, we've got to change some of these. It's the only way we can change the way we're doing things. So anything you get stuck on and I'm not behaving the right way, stop and look at these and go, right, what do I need to focus on? Any questions on those? I know it's probably gone a little bit sort of deep in certain areas, but does it sort of make sense? Do you have any questions?
No, makes sense.
Hey, Kevin, where does the fake it till you make it sit on that chart there?
The fake it till you make it is identity. So when you fake it, you basically, you're working on your identity. You're looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not that person yet, but that's the person I want to be. So have you heard the thing of positive affirmations?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a big thing in changing state of a person through positive affirmations. So you basically have a list of a dozen or so things that I am strong, I am decisive, I am, awesome, and you say these things to yourself over and over and over again, even if on a logical level you sort of think, well, I'm not really that person. Yeah. A way that, because a lot of people are very self-critical. So if you sort of say, I am if one of the things you want to be more forceful and make better decisions, you might say, I am forceful. And that little voice in your head goes, well, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And therefore you start to disbelieve what you're saying to yourself. A way to change that is you say, I am becoming more forceful. Because you can't argue with that. The little voice has to go, well, okay, perhaps you are. And if you say these things about yourself to yourself when you're by yourself, that's what's working on your identity. And it's the end result is fake it till you make it, but the deep psychological thing is you're working on your inner belief about who you are. If you say it to yourself enough times, eventually you do believe it. Okay, and if you believe it, you start acting in the way, your behavior changes, which reinforces the identity, and therefore you can become the person that you want to become. A really great example of this is Arnold Schwarzenegger's story. I don't know if you've come across it, but if you read his autobiography, when he sort of, when he was a kid in Austria, he was, a skinny little runt, and he would get bullied all the time, and he used to read the sort of the comics back then, the World's Strongest Man and things like that. So he had this ability to say, I am strong, I'm going to be like that, I'm going to be like that, I'm going to be like that. So his goal was that. His belief he was working on by continually saying that to himself, and then his actions were, I go down the gym every day. So it goes back to be, do, have. I want to have the physique of a, Atlas. Internally, I keep saying to myself, even though I'm not that person yet, I'm becoming the strongest man in the world. That's what I want. That's what I want, which is the affirmations and the internal. And then the actions have to follow that. Because if you just say it and don't do it, then eventually your subconscious goes, yeah, but you say it, but you're a lazy fat git and you're not going to do anything. And then the affirmations stop, and then you basically revert back to type. Does that answer that question, Gary?
Yeah, fair enough.
That's why they say you can become whatever you want to become. If you believe it enough, if you want it enough, if you work on your identity, if you work on your iceberg and you do the actions as well, then yeah, you can. But most people give up because it's not easy. They give up too soon, or they don't want it enough. So once we've looked at that, the other factor then is to understand a little bit more about your profile, your behavioral profile, because we're all wired slightly different. We all look at life in a slightly different way, and we all have our strengths within that and our weaknesses. And there's an element here with going back to the affirmation is to change your identity, but there's also a way of actually working with what you've got. Okay, because if you can build on your own internal strengths, then you can achieve a lot more than trying to be somebody who you're definitely not going to be. Yeah, the stories like Arnold Schwarzenegger of changing from a weedy little runt to the world's strongest man. That's a big change of identity. You can do it, but sometimes it's better to work with what you've got and just become a better version of you. So this profiling is a simple way to actually help us with this. Okay, so we look at our 4 behavioral traits, whether we're outgoing, whether we're reserved, so extrovert, introverted, whether we're task focused or whether we're people focused, so logical, emotional. Yeah, and a way to look at this is these are the powerful people, so high Ds, so dominant, driving, determined doers. I's are a little bit more emotional, a bit more people focused, so influential people, inspiring. S's are our supporter, stable type people, where we nurture and we look after other people. And C's is our task focused, sort of compliant, correct type people. So just looking at that, and I don't think any of you have done DISC profiles. We can do them. They're not overly expensive. You get a very detailed report, about 29, 30 pages, which goes into a lot of detail. So, but just on this, have a think about where you are. So just draw that out, DISC, put a cross where you think you are. Are you more in the D box, more the I box, the S box, and the C box? So just take a moment to put yourself in one of those boxes.
There's a great book that goes into this into great detail. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. It's a book that goes into this whole topic.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Really good.
Okay, I haven't heard about that one, but there's a lot of good books around this side of things, that we are all different. And when we look at people, we go, why do you think like that? Well, that's the way they think, So we have to understand how we think is different to other people, because part of, certainly in business, it's about how we get on with other people. Business is a team sport. It's not a solo pursuit. So we need to know for ourselves what's going to motivate us, what drives us, but also what drives other people. And it's definitely not always the same. So Megan, where have you put yourself?
Even after reading the book, I struggled with this. Because there's parts of me, I'd say, especially relating to the whole, I have lots of tasks on the go, probably the I, and that I'm kind of, I'd say I'm fairly people orientated, but at the same time, I can sort of see myself as being a bit of a C as well.
Okay. I mean, we generally have, we've got all 4 in us, so we're a mixture of the 4. We'll generally have one that's slightly higher. We might have 2 that sort of interchange. Okay, so we can be outgoing, people focused, and we can be introverted and task focused. Okay, so you'd be sort of IC. Yeah, Neil, where would you put yourself?
Again, I think all of that. I'm quite balanced, with all of them really, and it's quite situational specific. I think in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah.
is who I'm dealing with. I think I'm quite able to you know, sort of tune into the person I'm speaking to, and maybe sort of.
So if I came round to your house on a Saturday afternoon and you're not doing anything,
I think I'm an S probably.
Where would you be then?
I'm probably an S.
Okay.
S or a between an S and a C maybe. A bit of an I, bit of an S, bit of a C.
So what we find is when we do the test, there's a natural style. So as I would see you on a Saturday afternoon, and there would be an adapted style which would be situational. So I would, if I need to be in this situation, I'd be more D. In this situation, I'd be more I. In this situation, I'd be more C.
A default state, default.
But we've all got a default state that we find works best for us on most occasions. Now, the great thing, as you've sort of saying, is our ability to adapt, and that has great strengths by adapting, but it also has weaknesses. Okay, because if we adapt too much, then we can actually lose our own identity. We end up, I'm being all things to all people, but well, who am I? What am I happy with? Okay, Gary, what about you?
So yeah, having listened to Neil's answer there, I was like, wow, he's just thinking, he's saying what I'm thinking. I was doing like a split of 25% each, and then I was thinking of the D would be 26%, and then the C would be 24%, and then the other two would be the 25. So I and S is like a split joint middle, and then I'd be a little bit more on the D side and the least of the C. But again, like what Neil says, it's a situational thing. And I put in a situation in my head for each one of those already. So yeah, I think mostly slightly fractionally more on the D. That's probably
so when you have a problem, do you tend to sort of internalize it and think about it, or do you express it and want to talk about it?
Depends on the problem. If it's like a life problem, I'd sort of keep it quiet and just think it through. But if it's like on the job, something's just, I don't know, there's a leaky pipe all of a sudden, I'll just think of it quickly and just get on with it. So the outgoing and task orientated is quite focused when I'm on a job. But the rest of the time I'm quite chilled out. When I go view a job, I think I steer more to the I, which makes it more outgoing and more people focused. So that's when I kind of listen to the client, get their needs on board, find out what they really want, what they're looking for, get a feel of what their budget is for the job, and then kind of work with them in that sense. So it's kind of coming towards their eyes, like their view. So yeah, it's a bit of everything really, but I'd say it's slightly more on the D and then slightly less on the C.
Okay. Cool. Lee?
Generally, for me, I think where the center point is, if you come down about a quarter of the way down in between C and S, that's where I am generally.
Around here, so a bit of a balance between these, but more reserved, thoughtful than extrovert.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Good. Harriet?
I all the way.
I all the way. Yeah. Okay. So the key to this is that there's no weaker profile. Each one has its own strength. Each one has an equal element of weakness. So if we look at this, the D, is driving, determined, gets things done, dynamic. But it struggles in time management. It's very critical of other people. No one ever does the job as well as I can do it. Yeah. I want to control things, so I end up doing it myself. Yeah, and hasn't got any patience, so won't explain how to do things to other people. So can end up, very frustrated that fucking everyone's an idiot. I'm doing all this myself, but I don't want to do it myself. Now a really high D, actually is so clear on what the goal is, they don't stay in that state very long. Okay, they will just delegate it off to somebody else. The problem is where, you know, what you're saying, Gary, for you is because there's that C bit as well, because somebody who goes, I'm 24% of this and 26% of that, there's an element of C there because that's detail. D wouldn't even bother about that. Yeah, the C starts to go into the processy thing of actually working out, well, how do I do this myself? Okay, so we get a bit caught up in this loop that I'm doing it. No one can do it as well as I do, but I have to do it. And then depending on the day and what's going on, depends on which one of those will win. And if that D isn't strong enough, then generally the C kicks in and you end up doing something you don't really want to do, you don't enjoy doing, but it has to be done. So the C will actually make it happen.
Yeah, I think the D, I'm definitely higher on the D than what I thought after you've just said that. That's why I was laughing.
And you sometimes to assess whether you are D's are very, you know, all of those words in whatever situation I put you in. Yeah. Okay, C's can become D's in their area of expertise. So some C's look like D's, but they're not, because if I took you and I stuck you in the middle of the Arctic, you know, the Antarctic, yeah, how would you perform there? Would you perform like a D? Yeah, or would you go all C and more calculating and more sort of, you know, introverted in what you're doing? Okay, so time challenges, you know, for a D, you know, it's generally about letting go. It's about allowing other people. It's about allowing other people to make mistakes. Yeah, not worrying too much about it. Yeah, not being too controlling, and giving people time to catch up, because these generally mentally work quite quickly. You know, their brains are about 3 steps ahead of everybody else. Yeah. The other key thing with a D is they will tell you exactly how they feel and what they think is right, and they will say it in a very confident way, so that if you're not an equal D, you might think, you know, if Neil was a high D and told me something, I go, fucking hell, Neil, well, you obviously know what you're talking about. Yeah, and therefore it must be true. And he could be saying, well, yeah, the world's flat. It's obviously flat. It's been flat for years. Yeah, I can walk out there. I put a marble down on the table. It doesn't roll. So therefore the world must be flat. It's flat. Oh, fucking hell. You know, you've obviously you've done all your research. You're pretty confident. So fine. I don't want an argument with you. The world's flat. And for about 5 minutes, Neil feels, yeah, I've controlled everything. Everyone's in there. Yeah. But he's wrong. So it's sometimes difficult to challenge a D in their way of thinking. So if you are a D, you've got to allow your team and other people to be able to challenge you in a safe way. Because sometimes sometimes the world isn't flat. And you need to be able to get that feedback and take that information to make better decisions. The I is more inspirational, you know, inducing, interactive. You know, I's get things done by influencing other people. Okay, so they love new things. It's about the new. So go back to Megan. This is the I is the magpie. Oh, the nice shiny bright thing. Something more exciting over there. Therefore, off I go. Okay, so they get stuck in this magpie syndrome. They're great at talking about things. They never put a plan together, and then they don't delegate it. It just sort of sits there and never gets done. So I's are great at last minuters. So and a good way to think about this is if you go back to when you were at school, when exams were happening. Yeah, high I's are always the ones that are out partying all week and then crammed at 2 o'clock in the morning for an exam at 8 o'clock. Was that you, Megan?
Yep.
Okay. So, and often, you know, they're quite good at that, and that strategy actually works. So the brain sort of reinforces the fact that it's okay to do that. Now, in some situations, yes, it is, but in some situations, it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, it can be quite stressful sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and go back to the goal setting. You know, when I said about moving away from pain, the danger bit is you put so much stress on because you know you work well in that when the adrenaline's going and you're running fast, but often at that point you start to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got to understand what's happening internally and why you behave in a certain way you behave is generally because of things that in the past have happened that way that make you think it's the right way, but it's not always the right way. So, okay, and as we said, there starts things but does not complete them. So, you know, again, there's probably quite a bit of I within you there, Megan, that, you know, would be, in certain things, it's a good strength, but, you know, if things are not getting done, then you've got to prioritize and make time to get things done. And it won't be that exciting for you. As we said, you like the nice new thing, but you just got to say, right, I've just got to finish this off, get it done, move on to the next one. So
Do you think it's possible to change?
Yeah. Yep. But only if you want it, Megan.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't want it, then you've got to create a system and a way to actually get it so you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you love starting things and don't like finishing them, you need a PA.
Yeah.
You know, right, I'm not going to finish I'm going to not finish anything ever again. Yeah. I need somebody to actually finish it for me. So you need to find an S, you know, that is actually then going to take all that stuff that you start and don't finish and then finish it for you.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then you're going to have to suck up and actually make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. S is interesting because of the supporting nature that is inbuilt in them, that if you want something done, ask an S to do it because they won't say no. S's never say no. Okay, I'll do that. They might look at you in a okay, I'll do it again, roll their eyes, but they won't say no when you ask them to do something. The problem with that is they end up taking on too much. You know, you can always tell an S's desk because it'll be piled full of stuff because they're going to get round to it. You know, I'll get round to that one day. Or I've said I was going to do that for somebody and I will do it. But often people then get frustrated that, well, you said you were going to do it. Have you done it yet? You can always, I say, if you think about desk, you can always tell a D's desk. What's on a D's desk?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, a high D's desk is empty because they've delegated out. They've either done it because it was important, they got it done, or they delegated it out. What's on a high I's desk?
A couple of bits of.
Yeah, probably not a great deal.
Yeah.
High I's don't have desks because they're much rather talk to somebody, be around somebody else's desk. Okay. High S's desk is full of paper. You know, it's just in big piles. Yeah, they know where everything is. Yeah, but it's all in their head and they'll find it, but there's no structure to it from the outside world. Okay, so S's are not good at timescales. They're good at saying yes, they will do it, and in their mind they're going to do it. What we need to do with an S, if you are an S or you're managing an S, you've got to make sure they put timescales to things. Go back to goals. They've got to be smart goals, realistic within a time frame. If you don't give an S a goal, it just won't get done. Because somebody else will come along and give them something else. And if a D gives them something, they will give a time frame. So they'll end up doing all the D's work and no one else's work. C's, compliant, correct. You know, how do you tell a C's desk? What's the difference between a C's desk and an S's desk?
Immaculate.
Yeah, everything's perfectly
Everything's in
in
its
place.
place.
perfectly in its place. Yeah, it's all nicely laid. It's still the same amount of stuff on it, okay, but it will all be perfectly laid out. Don't go in and move. If you move something on a C's desk, you're in trouble. So for C's, you know, what they struggle with is finishing things because they're not ever perfect. They're always tinkering. They're going back and just one more bit, one more bit, one more bit, one more bit. So if you are making a bit I and C, you've got both of those problems. I'm starting too many things and I don't finish them because I can't make them perfect. So when I do, I tinker with them and they never get off my desk. So the C's got to know when good enough is good enough and just, right, that's done, gone, move on to the next thing. And the I's got to learn how to not take on too many things that overloads. So C's won't delegate because they're perfect and they're the ones that can do it the best. So go back to, you know, point with the D. If you're a DC, you've got this sort of internal battle that, you know, no one can do it as well as me, but I won't delegate it. So you're stuck with it. And C's don't like accountability. Okay, so they because they think there's a bit of a superior complex with a high C. So they don't like people challenging them and holding them to account on things. So they can avoid, but they also don't like confrontation. So they'll avoid putting themselves in a situation where they can be held accountable. Now, if you are a high C yourself and you're working on your own, you know, you're probably not meeting your own deadlines, meeting your own high standards. So you've got to work on a way to actually achieve that. So you can see here that depending on your profile actually creates different types of time issues. High C's take too long to finish things. S's are doing too many things of other people. Our I's are starting things and not completing them. You know, D's, you know, D's are generally the ones that are the best at time management, to be honest, because they just delegate to other people. But where they can't delegate, then they get stuck in doing stuff that they don't enjoy doing. And if anyone wants a disc profile, so we can do those. They're generally 20. Yeah, the basic ones are £25 plus VAT, so it's not an expensive thing to get done, and it really gives you a lot of information about you, communication styles, to help you with you know, with yourself and other people. So, any questions on disc?
Sorry, do you provide a link to do those disc profiles?
Yep, they're all online. So I just send you I send you a link. It takes about 10 minutes to do. 24 questions. It's I still don't know how they make it so accurate, but it's a very simple test and gives a very generally, as long as you answer them based on a situation and truthfully, because you can answer them anything you want. As I said, you can be whoever you want to be. But if you answer them in a certain situation truthfully, then you'll get a really good result of who you are. And so the end result doesn't matter. It's what you do with that makes it different. I always say it's a bit like tea leaf reading. You know, it's what you read into it and what you do as a result of it that makes the difference. So, okay, so we need to have the goals we need to work on ourselves, our understanding who we are, our own beliefs and our behaviors. And
Cat's come to say hello.
There's a floating cat. Look. Oh.
Disappeared.
Ooh, go see cat. So now we need to work on what we need to do. So one of the key things for doing comes from a guy called Stephen Covey. So Stephen Covey wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he studied some of the best people, the most effective people of his time. He looked at what they had, traits they had in common. He came up with 7 traits. One of those was how they manage time. And he said, all of these people are really clear on where they spend their time. And they minimize the amount of time that goes into not urgent and not important areas of their life. So how do you know if something's urgent or not?
A time frame on it?
Yeah.
There's a time frame, but what makes it urgent?
Consequences if not done.
Consequences of not doing it at that time. So go back to your exams, Megan. You know, it became urgent because you knew you had an exam at 8 o'clock the next morning.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. How do I know if something's important?
It will
Someone said
be
so.
quite painful if I don't do it.
That's more about the urgency. Again, the consequences of not doing it. There's a subtle difference with something that's important. What did we talk about at the start of today?
Will it get us to the goal that we
The
need?
goal. So you can't understand if something's important if you don't know what your goal is. You don't have any goal. Everything's equal as important. So, and that's why I always say the biggest problem with time management is the lack of clarity of goal. Because if you don't have a goal, you can't identify what's important. You can always know what's urgent because there's a consequence of it not happening, but you can't identify the importance. So if you end up doing not urgent, there's no consequence if you don't do it, and it's not important, basically said you get distracted easily. And again, go back to the high I. The high I gets distracted very easily. What's the next shiny bright thing that comes along? Might not be anything to do helping me to achieve my goals, and I don't have to do it now, so I get distracted. Give me some examples of things that can distract you. Not important, not urgent.
Facebook.
Facebook, social media are massive distractions. Okay, and searches on Google and YouTube, you know, and we all catch ourselves. We go online to find something, and 10 minutes later, you know, you're buying something off Amazon. Well, how did I get here? And the more your brain craves distraction, it needs some stimulation, the more you'll get stuck in this box. He said successful people, yeah, are very good at cutting this out completely from their lives. The next area is now it's urgent, but it's still not important. And he called this area delusion. So the idea of what could be urgent as a consequence of not doing, but it's not important to me. What would come under that? So it's not important to me. Who's it important to?
Somebody else that you work with.
Somebody else. Okay, so we delude ourselves that we're busy helping other people achieve their goals at the expense of our own goals. And this comes where you end up working really busy from 9 till 5, and then you end up doing all your own work from 5 till 7. And the S's get stuck in this one big time. Okay, because they're so keen on helping other people achieve their goals that, and they think they're busy, but they become delusional because they're not actually moving towards their own goals and what should be important to them. Then we move into the urgent and important. Okay, so it's urgent, it has to be done as a consequence, and it is important. So this is what I would call firefighting, and this is what D's are really good at, because D's like fixing things. Yeah, I go fixing. C's are quite good at this as well. Yeah, we put on our underpants over our tights, we put on our cape, and we fly in and we fix it, and then we fly out until the next thing we fly in and fix it. And it does give you a good sense of achievement. Okay, but it wears you out after a period of time. And the big thing from this is, if we're in this box too often, why do things suddenly become urgent?
Because you've wasted time.
Because, yep, go on.
I'd say because you've been distracted and now all of a sudden become urgent because you spent too much time procrastinating on something, maybe.
Yeah, you've left it to the last minute.
Yeah.
So go back to Megan and her exams. You know, why did it become urgent that she had to do her studies from 2 to 8 o'clock before the exam? Because she didn't do it 2 days ago. Now, either because she was distracted, doing something that was irrelevant, she was delusional, she was doing something for other people, or she's been really, really busy and she left it to the last minute because in her mind she had no time to do it. Covey said, successful people spend most of their time here in doing the not urgent, so it doesn't have to be done now, but it is important because it is moving us towards our goals. In my language, this is working on the business. Yeah, this is working in the business. And if we're going to do that, we have to create time in order to achieve this. It's hard, you know, distractions, delusion, demand, all of these are clambering for our time. But in order to be successful, we need to be in this box here. Okay, so we've got to stop the distractions. So resist and cease the distractions. So, you know, phone calls, emails, social media, things that make us feel good temporarily, you know, chat, gossip, pointless routines. Reject, say no, yeah, to requests from other people, interruptions, you know, knee-jerk panics. Some meetings, you know, for bigger organizations, death by meeting, you've heard that sort of concept a few times. You know, is this meeting important? Is it going to help me achieve my goals? Yes or no? Okay, don't just point blankly say no. Sometimes you need to talk to your boss, you know, the other people, and say, look, do you really need me in this? I don't mind contributing. Can I come for 10 minutes, contribute, and then bugger off and do something else? The do now stuff, you know, crisis, emergencies, what you've got to do is find out why am I in this demand? What am I doing that should reduce this? Do I need to put sort of barriers in the way? Do I need to, if I stop this, can I get ahead of the curve so it doesn't become pressing, a demand on my time? And for this stuff, you've got to plan it. You've got to sit down and actually give yourself time to actually do the important things. Okay, it doesn't just happen, this stuff. It takes discipline, it takes focus, but you know, it is critical to success in any walk of life. So understanding that, what you've got to do, therefore, is control your resource. You've got to review what you're doing, you've got to prioritize it, and you've got to organize it. Okay, these are the three key things. So the first thing to look at is, or to review, is what hats are you wearing? So what roles and responsibilities in your organization come under your remit or your job? Okay, now, unfortunately, when you start your business, as you are, Gary, you know, you wear all the hats. Okay, so you've got to understand, right, I've got to wear all the hats, but I've got to therefore allocate the right amount of time to the right hat. And if we look at it, just back on. So if we look at the roles that we play within an organization, you know, we are a shareholder. We're an investor, owner of the business. We're the managing director, the marketing director, the sales director, we're the operations director, we're the finance director, we're the HR director. We might be in charge of social media. We might be an estimator. We might be a packer. Okay, we might be the bookkeeper, payroll. So you've got to understand what hats are we wearing, and then make time to actually do them to the best of our ability. And some of these hats we need to pass over to somebody else, but at certain times we may not be able to do that. So what we need to put in place is time log. Okay, so we need to understand where our time is going on a day-to-day, week-by-week basis. Now, unknowingly, I was taught this from the moment I started work. So when I came out of university, I joined an accountancy practice. The first thing I had to do was manage my time. So every single day I had a sheet like this. I had to put the client in here. So client A, right? So client A, and I spent 2 hours on them. Client B, I spent 4 hours, and I did some filing, 2 hours. So I did 8 hours that day. Okay, and I was brought up on the fact that every single day I had to account for my timesheet, and at the end of the day, I did 40 hours, and I got paid for those 40 hours. And it would always be at the end of Friday, I'd do all of this, and it came to 22 hours, and I'll have to go, oh shit, happened to the other 18 hours. Oh well, I'll put 2 on there. I'll put 2 on there. I don't want to show too many admin stuff, and the fact that I spent 3 hours down at the coffee machine chatting to Michelle. I'll make that 6 hours. Okay, right, there's 40 hours. Now, when I did it, for me, I didn't know what the purpose was. It was for I was doing this for somebody else. I wasn't doing this for me. For you guys, you need to be doing this for you. So cheating, why cheat yourself? So you've got to look at it a little bit more in the fact of, actually, this is finance, this is sales, this is marketing, this is team, whatever it is, this is how many hours I've actually spent doing those activities. Okay, so you monitor what you're actually doing, where the time is going, and that in itself will be a revelation to you. You actually start to see, wow, I do a lot, and how many hours am I actually working? And then you can say, right, well, if all that came to, say 50% of your time was here, 20% of your time was here, 10% was here, and 20% was here, you then set your goal for the next 90 days and say, right, okay, so if I want to be successful in this role, what is my role? What is my goal? Actually, I need to reduce this down to 20%. I need to do far more in sales, so that needs to be 50%. Marketing needs to go up to 20%, and that needs to be 10%. Okay, so now I'm setting my expectation of setting my RAS to what I want to achieve. So if I'm not doing 50% of my time in sales and marketing, my business isn't going to grow. But until you know where you're starting from, it's very difficult for you to make this decision, because you might find that, these are all, I'm doing these, and that's important. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. So I don't have any capacity to move anything around. In which case, we've then got to put in some resource in here. I've got to put some resource in here in order to delegate, so somebody else can do the 30% that I'm doing. And that we may be able to do that right away. It might be something we can do in the future. So we've got to keep track of our time and understand where our time goes, and then set our goal for what we want to achieve. Once we've got that, there might be things that we need to let go of. And we do that through a skills fun matrix. So what's high skilled and what's low fun? Okay. So give me an activity, Harriet, that you're doing that you potentially want to get rid of. Or just give me an activity that you do.
Marketing emails.
Marketing emails. Okay. So if we looked at putting marketing emails in one of these boxes, yeah, where would we put it? Is it really high skill,
No.
really high fun, or is it very low skill, low fun?
Low skill, low fun.
Low skill, low fun. So emails for you would sit here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's in a low skill, low fun, anything down here, we really want to get rid of. Okay, because we want to be doing high skill, high fun. That's the box we want to be. So anything down here would be right. We just need to delegate that off to somebody else. Find some resource where for them, emails could be high skill, high fun. Or systemize it or do something that removes it from where we are. If it was high skill, so if emails are up here, high skill, but you didn't enjoy it, and chances are you need to break this down into its component parts. So which bit of emails is not enjoyable?
The lengthy process of tracking down exposure.
So the data.
Yeah.
The database. So, okay, so that's the low fun. So actually, database stuff, okay, might be low skill and low fun. So we delegate that out. We keep the writing of the email ourselves. Okay, so we keep the writing of the email because actually that does take our skill. The actual collection of the database might be something we can delegate out. If emails was high fun but low skill, you really enjoyed it, but didn't need your skill, then you'd question, you know, actually I might really enjoy it, but should I actually pass it on to somebody else? And I'll do 10% of my time on emails. I'll limit the amount of time I spend on it. So anything sort of around here, all of this, yeah, we've got to look at actually reducing so we can put more time in the things that need our level of skill and we actually enjoy doing. Okay, and often it's not going to happen overnight. You've got to put time and effort into it, but eventually you get to a point where you're really only doing the things that really, you know, challenge you and you enjoy doing. So for me, you know, high skill, high fun is coaching. You know, doing these webinars. I love doing them, and it needs my level of knowledge to do them. So that sits in here for me. Emails sit here, so I don't do them. LinkedIn social media posting, I don't enjoy doing, so somebody else does it. It counts. You know, used to enjoy doing it. I didn't need my level of skill, so it was one of the last things I handed over, but now I don't do that either. Okay, so I've got to a point where, you know, I pretty much most of the days do this, and if I don't have anything to do, I just play golf because I enjoy that even more. I just wish I was more skilled at it. So, okay, so analyze your time, break it down, look at things to delegate off, things that you need to get rid of, and then spend your time in the zone doing what you should be doing. And then we've got to make time to actually achieve these things. Okay, we've got to look at how we make time, and it's that whole thing. As I said before, you've got 24 hours in a day, exactly the same as Richard Branson, you know, Alan Sugar, all the successful people. Yeah, all these guys here have got exactly the same amount of time as you do. It's how we put them, you know, how we plan things out in our diary that is key. And the simple analogy for this is if this was a day, yeah, and rocks, gravel and sand were the things you have to get done, yeah, with a small being the minutia, this was the distraction stuff, this is the delusional stuff and demand, and the rocks, the big rocks are the important but not urgent zone stuff. In order to get these into the jar, which would need to go in first? Megan?
Large.
The large ones. Okay, so we put the large ones in there first, and the gravel fits around the large rocks, and the sand fits around the smaller ones. If we try it the other way, if we don't put anything in the jar, it'll quickly get filled up with sand. You only get half the pebbles in and none of the rocks. And that's where most people spend their day, is that they're not putting into their diaries those important, and we only know if they're important because we've got clarity around our goals, yeah, aspects into our diary so they actually get sorted. And we create from that a default diary, which basically breaks the days down and the week down into its component parts, and we put in there the areas that we're going to focus on and try and keep our white space things, to a minimum. We've actually got focus for each hour of each day. Now, for some people, certainly the I's and the D's, you can find this quite a difficult concept. C's love this. Okay, C's just they'll do really detailed default diaries, and they're great with it. Don't always stick to it, but they're great at producing it. Anyone with a bit of I in them can struggle with this because it feels constrictive. It feels, well, my day doesn't fit like this. I'm a bit sort of all over the place. How do I fit into this? But the key thing I've learned is I's need it the most. They need that structure. That's why, who's got school kids? Anybody got children at school? Anybody had children at school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was a child at school? Okay. So when you're a child at school, and you weren't really able to fully be in charge of your own life and destiny, yeah. First day at school, what did they give you?
Timetable.
A timetable. Okay. Now, they gave you a timetable because there were certain things that had to get done, important things, yeah, that you were easily distracted and delusional as a child. Therefore, you had to have a timetable to get those important things done. But the other interesting thing about timetables, if you can remember as a kid, on a Monday morning, after assembly in the first lesson, what was it always on a Monday morning? First two sessions of the week.
Or maths or science?
Maths, English.
Mm.
So why did they put maths, English at the very first thing on the week?
Most important.
Because they're most important. And for a lot of people, the least enjoyable. Okay. So we call that eating frogs. I've got a slide on that in a minute. So you get those most important things done as quickly as you possibly can in the week. On a Wednesday afternoon, what did you do on a Wednesday afternoon?
PE.
PE sport, because it breaks the week up. It gave you a little bit of a respite that you could take a bit of a breath and it would break the week up. What was always on a Friday afternoon?
Music or something like that.
Sorry?
Music or something like that.
Music.
Something that didn't really require.
Yep. Something that doesn't require much cognitive thought.
Yeah.
We always had woodworking or metalwork. Something probably a bit more practical, a little bit less use of our brain. For two purposes. One, because by that time mentally you were probably fried, and the other thing that I think was more psychological was if you left on a Friday doing something quite nice, it meant you were more likely to turn up on Monday. In the end, we used to just bunk off on a Friday afternoon. It was just like pointless. I was never going to be working in metalwork. As childs, we're used to that structure. As adults, we need that structure as well. Okay, so we build our default diaries based around the roles that we've got to do, the importance of each one, and then we need to put the activities in those places as we go. So every week we should be filling in. So if this isn't, so if I was here, I've got like Monday lunchtime, I'm doing direct mail. Either on the Friday night before I leave, or very early Monday, or even sort of Sunday night, I need to put in there exactly what direct mail I'm going to be doing. I can't get to this point in time and go, right, direct mail. What do I need to do for direct mail? Oh, let me think about that. Because as soon as I do that, something's going to happen. The phone's going to ring, a customer's going to ask me, something more important in the moment will come up and actually hijack that space. If I knew before I started Monday that I've got to send out 20 direct mail letters, that's my goal, that's my target, in that 2-hour slot, I've got a much more chance of when somebody phones me up at 1 o'clock and say, look, I'm really busy, I'm just doing this direct mail letter, once I've done it, can I phone you back? Okay, if you don't put things into the space that you've created, it will get hijacked. And we all know what it's like. When we started this, I got a phone call, that came through, and because I'd started this, something's already in place. I just say, I'll phone you back again later. If that person had phoned me 15 minutes before I started, I would have picked up the call. I would have talked to them, and I would have probably been late for the start of this. Oh, that's interesting. What was I a minute late before we started this? Why was that? Because I took a call 10 minutes before the meeting and it overran. I did something. It was either a distraction because I was doing something else, or it was a delusion that I was helping somebody else achieve their goals as opposed to achieving my own goals. So I can, hand on heart, guys, say this is simple, but it ain't easy. You've always got to catch yourself and be reassessing what you're doing. Okay, and a default diary is, it sometimes will go out the window, but it's called a default because it's what you default back to next week. So I might get to Monday and all this disappears. I can't do any of this because something's happened that's more important. But next week, I'll come back to my default diary. And the final couple of sort of concepts on this. One is, it came from a book by a guy called Jim Collins, who's written a number of great books, Great by Choice, How the Mighty Fall, Good to Great. And this was one of his book on what he calls level 5 leadership, what makes great leaders. And this guy is, does anyone know who this is? First man to the South Pole. No, so this is Amundsen. So he was a Norwegian explorer. Who was he racing to the South Pole? I can forgive you because you're South African, Gary, but come on. Do you not know your history? Who was Amundsen racing to the South Pole? Scott of the Antarctic.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was the North.
No, that was the South Pole.
It's going to be David Attenborough.
So do you know what happened to Scott?
Probably died.
He died. Okay, if you get a chance, it really is an interesting. I think there was a documentary on it, but it's really interesting that Scott is seen as this figurehead of a great leader, inspirational person. Okay, and he was. He was so inspirational that he took a team of, I think, 8 people to their death. Whereas Amundsen was a completely different character, far more introverted. He meticulously planned his journey. Okay, one of the key reasons why he succeeded was a concept of the 20-mile march. Okay, so obviously, when they go to the South Pole, they do it in the summer where they've got really long days. So it's daylight for, I don't know, 20 odd hours. Okay, and the weather goes from being lovely, sunny, bit like we've had this week, sunny, no wind, great, you're out there in shorts, and then to howling winds and -20, and it can change like that. Amundsen looked at it and said, look, in order for us to get to where we want to go, we need to break this down into 20-mile marches. So every day, irrespective of the weather, we are going to do 20 miles. So the first day, the weather was great. They camped at 4 o'clock after doing their 20 miles. Scott was more of a gung-ho type person, said, look, it's really sunny. We're going to carry on. We're going to carry on. So they would do 40 miles on the first day. Second day, still another great day. Amundsen did 20 miles, stopped at 4 o'clock. Scott said, great, we're going to carry on. We're going to do another 40 miles. So now Scott's miles seems to be miles ahead. Third day, the weather turns. Scott says, well, because we're a bit ahead of the game, we'll have a day off. Amundsen does 20 miles. Second day, weather's still a bit crap. Scott says, well, let's have another day off because we're still ahead of the game. Amundsen does 20 miles. Weather changes, it's nice again. Scott rushes out. By this time, the guys are a bit tired and a bit fed up, so he finishes early, only does 10 miles. Amundsen does 20 miles. And so this continues. Amundsen just does 20 miles, 20 miles, 20 miles, 20 miles. Scott, as if you read the story, the weather turns really badly one day. They don't get out. Their energy levels have gone. They made some really bad decisions. They took horses which sweat, and in -20, the horses all died. Amundsen took huskies because when a husky dies, what do they do with a husky? The dead husky?
Feed it to the other ones.
Feed it to the other huskies. Okay, so I think they went with a team of 20 or so huskies. They came back with 5, something like that. But this was planned. He did his research. He went to the Eskimos and found out how you survive in conditions. Scott, when he started, he took machines. He took these great big diesel-powered cars, which got off the lorry and sank in the snow and were never used. And his fallback plan were donkeys, which died within about 2 days. So they ended up carrying their own packs. So it was a story of just failure after failure after failure for Scott. Because he didn't really plan. He didn't think it through, as Amundsen did it, and he just did 20 miles at a time. So when you're looking at what you've got to do, think about that relentless 20 miles. What's your 20-mile march this week? Doesn't matter what the weather is, what's going to happen, you just get it done. And Megan, go back to you of not completing, finishing. This is the change of mindset. Okay, I've just got to get done what I've got to get done this week. Not 2-3 things off the list. It doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to commit to that. But once you've done those, don't then do another one. Don't start another one. Okay, just stop at the ones you said you were going to do. Great, I've done that. Move on to something else. Okay, so really think about that 20. What is your 20-mile march that you're going to commit to do, and then do it consistently. It's about creating those habits. And I think I said before, if there are some things that you need to do that you don't like doing, you've been putting off, put it off. There's a book by a guy called Brian Tracy. He just says, you've just got to eat that frog. Get the worst thing that you've got to do on your to-do list done the first thing in the day, because after that, everything else is going to taste fine. So look at your to-do list, find the worst thing, stick it on the first thing Monday morning, get it done, and then the rest of the week will be good. Cool. And I think actually for once on a time mastery workshop, we've finished on time. So any questions? Go back to your what you wanted to get out of this. Have I answered all of your so Harriet, not enough hours in the day, managing time better? Have I given you some ideas around that?
Yeah.
Default diary, Neil, does
Definitely, yeah. Well, I've got one which I shared to you a while ago, and I mean, Lee's got one. Harriet, I think you've got one as well. We've got default diaries, things that we do, but I think that's the white spaces for me. I mean, yeah, I think it's just filling up the bits with the white spaces, and as you say, it's doing the things that you least want to do, not putting it off first and then doing the rest. I've got like
always remember your default diary is an aspirational thing. It's the person you want to become.
Yeah.
So it's not today. It's not about today. This is about in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months time. This is how I want my week to look.
Yeah.
And then you work towards it. You know, your calendar is for today. Your calendar is how things are done today. Your default diary is to help you become that person. So you've got to accept you're probably not going to fit into it for the first month or so. But every week you try and fit a little bit more of your routine into that diary that you're trying to achieve. And I know Gary's done quite a bit of work on this, and you've changed days. You know, at the start, Monday was my admin day. Well, that doesn't really work, so I'm going to move it to Friday. That's fine. That's good. That's, to me, that is progress. So Lee, prioritizing tasks. What's the most important thing if prioritize a task?
What's the most important
thing in order for you to prioritize a task?
Well,
what I've
look at the urgency level.
Look at the urgency level.
The important and how important it is.
The importance.
The rest of the tasks.
Priorities come from importance. Comes from your goals.
And as you've been doing that, as you've been talking about that, actually, I've been looking at what I've got to do and just sort of rejigging them and prioritizing those important tasks. And
if you struggle with prioritizing, then it's because you're not clear what your goal is. Go back, write the goal at the top of the page. My goal for this quarter is to achieve this. Then rank your to-do list according to that goal. You can't prioritize against without having a goal. Okay. Megan, too many unfinished tasks on the go. So what are you going to
do? Again, just prioritize them and make sure the most important ones get finished. And I think I had I can't remember the letter, but I think I have a bit of where I take on too many tasks from other people as well. So I need to do some more rejecting.
Yeah.
Tasks.
You've got to learn to say no politely.
Yeah.
And it is tough. It's sometimes, certainly if you say no to your boss, then it's a tough one to do. But if you explain and say, look, I'd love to do this, but here's a list of things that I've already got to do. Which one of those do you want me to drop in order to do that one?
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes people don't understand. Because if you sit there going, yeah, okay, I'll do it, they just think that you're sitting around all day doing nothing.
Yeah.
So you've got to communicate that to them and say, look, I am really busy. I've got 6 weeks work here. I don't mind doing it, but I need some help with what I don't do in order to do that one.
Yeah.
And often you have that communication, certainly with clients that I work with, is, well, actually, do you want some support then?
Yeah.
From all those things you've got to do, there's no way you can do all of those. So we need to get you some support in. So it starts that conversation to move things forwards. So Gary, adjusting default diaries, giving you enough things to work on there?
Yeah. I know you pointed out about me changing my admin day from a Monday to a Friday. So we did it once last week. We're doing it this week, and I normally embrace change, but this change is not right, I don't think. So it's the whole eat the frog first. So if I get the admin day done and dusted on the first day of the week, then the rest of the week is working days for me, which I prefer that. So I'm going to try it till the end of the month, give it a go, and then probably turn it back to what it was before, because I want to eat that frog first, get it done and out the way.
Yeah, sometimes you got to try things. If you generally know if they're going to work, but if they don't, then you rejig your default diary and try another way. It is a bit of sucking.
At least I try a change, and if it does or doesn't work, then I can tick it off the list, sort of thing, and then at least I've tried.
Yeah, cool, good. So your home fund from this is make sure you're really clear what your goals for the year, quarter, and week are. Have a think about your limiting beliefs. If you do want to do a DISC profile, just email me and I can send you the link through for the profiles. And make sure you do your time audit and complete your default diary. Those are the key things to really help. And if you want some more reading, so we are doing book club the last Friday. I think it's the 26th of April. And it's Duncan Bannatyne's book. So you can send me an email if you're interested in coming along to discuss that book. It's got some more good tips in it. So super. Any final questions before we go? Good and happy?
Yeah.
Excellent. Lovely. Well, good to have you on the call, guys, and look after yourselves, and I will see you soon. For now.
That's Kevin. Been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye.